Hey everybody, Joseph Estrada here with my brothers from Other Mothers. Welcome to Real Talk. You're here with
Rudy Raya,
Isaiah Moya, and Brian Martinez.
Yeah, and the man behind the camera, Mr.
Cody Crawford.
Cody Crawford. Oh man, all right. So, good day. Just had some good stuff going on. I'm really excited for what Brian's doing. Brian,
just wait, hold on. Just to let you guys know,
yeah.
Joe's delirious right now.
I am delirious.
This is going to be a fun episode.
Yes, you can't count anything that I say against me. That's the rule when you don't sleep. And yeah, so none of this counts.
Yeah,
so I can
some no sleep there.
Yeah, that's right. We're all no sleep.
Team no sleep.
Team no sleep. Oh man. So no, we had a good meeting on Thursday. Went over a little bit. At the end I kind of ranted a little, which I do sometimes, but felt led to talk about a lot of our past experiences that we've gone through in life, and how as men especially, I think women probably do the same thing, maybe not quite as much, but I think as men especially, we always want to be strong, right? Yeah, that's who we are. We're leaders, we're strong. We don't like to show vulnerability or weakness, but I've realized over the years, as I've grown as a more mature man and actually got stronger and less insecure about certain things, that those experiences that were traumatic and I wouldn't really ever wish on anybody, that I would even try and hide my mistakes, my experiences that I didn't want to share, I realized that by holding them in, it actually created bondage to it, and it owned me and controlled a lot of my actions, reactions, and who and how I was. On the other hand, as I've grown, I've realized, wow, I've gone through these things, and as a believer, I don't believe God put me through these things, but I believe I put myself through these things as a sinful man living in his sinful nature at times. It was my choice. I had free will. But God can use those things, and he has. I've gone through quite a bit, and that's what we're going to talk about. So I'm going to ask, we're just going to go for it, man, and I'm going to hit Brian. It's Brian's first time on the show.
Yeah.
We're coming at you, Brian. Yeah, it's time, man. It's time. So how long have you been with us, Brian? Let's let everybody get to know you a little bit.
Realistically, well, a couple of years now. Active. Have my license for a few, but didn't really put it to use at first.
Yeah.
But then, a couple of years back, that's when we started hitting it, and we got a few homes sold, and it's been all great from there.
Nice.
Yeah, it's all good.
You want to tell them the story of how you got the idea of getting into real estate?
Oh, Mr. Rudy Raya.
Yeah,
Mr. Raya.
But he was eating lunch or something, and he was talking about.
Tell him.
Okay,
because
we gotta
it was just something that I was kind of thinking. I just wanted to make a little transition. I bartend. I love bartending. It's a fun job.
Yeah.
It's
a fun job, and that's where you get to see a lot of people.
Doing that, but at the time, I'm working weekends, nights, stuff like that. As I'm getting older, I don't want to be up so late all the time, things like that. And I just kind of want to transition and have a little more freedom as far as time with family, things like that. So I was thinking of a different, path to go through, and real estate kind of popped up, and I'm always watching those shows, HGTV, all that. It has an interest for me.
Heck yeah.
And also to help my family, because honestly, previous to becoming a real estate agent, I kind of looked at agents as car salesmen or something.
Yeah.
And I don't like car salesmen. I'm sorry to all the car salesmen out there, but there's a bad taste in my mouth for a reason. I haven't been diligent where I was cool. Anyways, that's another story. We can go down that.
Another channel.
I just want to, be there for my family, my friends, and also myself at the end of the day when I'm ready to purchase my first home. Nice. And I want to know the ins and outs and make sure that we're doing. So getting into it, before that, I was already thinking about it. And then there was just one of the biggest signs was I was eating lunch, and then all of a sudden on one of the TV screens it was Rudy Raya's right there. And I was just that's Rudy. I was oh, crazy. Yeah. And then, I don't know, he ended up hitting me up probably a couple weeks later, and it was
randomly. The connections just happened.
Yeah, and I was just okay, all these signs pop up, and I was you know what, let's go for it.
Yeah,
let's do it,
And nothing happens by chance. I say it, I believe it, I truly do. You're right where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, and it was cool. It was really nerve-wracking going through that process, the school, you never know. You're just oh man, I was studying so much, but school, right? It was cool, man. I got 100%. And I got 100% on my test. So yeah, and
Only
then,
smart
after
ones here at
that-
Family Tree.
Yeah, and then it will help some families get in their first homes and
Nice.
even second homes and stuff like that. It's just been a great experience.
Land,
and awesome.
investment properties. I
Yeah.
mean, you help everyone, man.
Yeah.
Actually, you're working on a deal right now. You're in negotiations, and it looks like you're at the tail end of locking something in for a
Yeah.
particular client.
We're gonna
Good job
get it
on that.
done. We're
Yeah.
gonna get it done.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, right on, man. Now, talking about what we're talking about, can you think of a time in your life that you've gone through something? And I'm gonna ask you guys, man. I'm gonna ask you guys to be real and maybe get a little vulnerable, because some things, maybe even something. I mean, I wouldn't go that deep that you're not even shared. I mean, I don't know. That's pretty bold to say right now, and in front of the world. We have 10 million viewers. Well, not really, but we're gonna get there.
It's actually more.
I'm a dreamer.
It's actually
baby.
more.
It's actually more. Yeah.
Look, Real Talk's right under there under Joe Rogan.
That's right. That's right. Joe, how's it going? This is the other Joe.
The other Joe.
Oh, man. It's gonna be a Joe versus Joe. It's okay. It's for charity.
I think we'll push too. I mean, it's for charity.
It's for charity.
Yeah, man. I mean, is there something that you can think of, man, that you've gone through? And I have a ton of them, just because it was a little wild. But this is about you right now, man. And I want to, something that you could share that is an experience that hurt. You wouldn't want to go through it again, but you don't regret it, and you're grateful you did, and you've been able to help others because of it.
I don't know. One in particular I can't really think of, honestly. There's just been so much in the past few years. Yeah, I don't really have much on that topic. I don't. I've been just through a lot through like the past few years of, losing family members. I mean, we all have, but just staying strong. And
How'd you handle that when you've lost somebody?
It was, I think for me, like most people, kind of just shut down, put on that front. But I really try to be strong because I try to think like that loved one that I lost, what would they want me to do? And that's what kept me through things like that. So it was weird because at the same time, I don't know, they always say like it happens in threes or something. So some people that were around me that I was, close to, they've lost people and stuff like that. And so it was, I guess it kind of worked out to kind of be there for them and share my experience and how I deal with it. Everybody's different, but just like, hey, this is what I do, or this is what I've been doing. And I really just have that voice in my head from that person that just says like, don't be sad for me, or keep moving on for me, and just live in their name and honor, and that's pretty much it. So.
And you were able to share that with
other people, and I hope it helped them. I mean, I see them on day to day. They seem good. Those are dark times at first, but I think it's important to keep moving on and like again in their honor and their name and what they would want from you, and meeting those expectations and things like that.
No, and that's good, man.
That's very similar to me, because I don't know if you guys know, but yesterday was the 5-year anniversary of my grandfather's death.
Oh, brother.
And you know how close I was with him and whatnot.
You guys were really close.
Real close. I took care of him. He took care of me and whatnot. So,
Grandpa from Colombia.
From Colombia.
Yes.
Coffee and
Colombia
cocaine.
connection. That's right.
But no, he was.
He did say that. He's just kidding, everybody.
But Grandpa. Yeah, it was 5 years, and the thing is, just it came out of left field, like like his passing. So it's still rough, to this day, 5 years later, and still dealing with it. But what brings hope is like he's no longer suffering.
Yeah,
He's no longer suffering. You gotta put things like that. Like that person was suffering so long for so many years that they're no longer suffering, and that actually gives you a sense of peace.
And you know what I noticed with yourself, particularly, and you with what you were just saying, you've talked about Grandpa to me many times since it's happened.
Yeah.
You didn't hold it in.
I didn't hold it in.
You let it out, and you've cried. I've been there when you've cried.
I've cried, yeah.
You've shared, you've expressed, and that's not only empowering for you, that sets you free from that internal bondage and struggle that we, as men, a lot of times hold in because we want to be strong. Yeah. But it also helps people like me that are there, able to see, like, man, it helps others be comfortable being real in those situations.
Actually, the day he died, like right before he died, I was on the phone with you, and I was crying on the phone with him because it's like.
When it hits.
Yeah,
there's no time or anything. It'll just like come, and you'll just have that thought of them, and then just like whoosh, and you're just like,
so it was just. But what really helped is being here helped a lot, because this is not a job. This is just not an office. This is family. This is our home, and like just being, because I was here a week after he died. I came to the office and started working because I needed to be around people who were close and and just kind of keep me distracted and whatnot. So I thank all the team members over here, man, because that you guys helped a lot.
Man,
Seriously.
we love it, man. Heck yeah. Heck
All love,
That's
baby.
right.
All love.
That's right.
That's yeah. So
And Grandpa was a good man.
he was a good man.
He really was, yeah.
Man, he took
was
care of
good
me.
people.
He took care of
He
me.
took care of you. He really, and your kids.
The
yeah.
thing is, I don't know, a lot of people don't know this, but we weren't blood related.
Yeah, I knew that.
Yeah,
'cause
you
you
knew that.
shared
Not
that.
blood related,
But he was Grandpa.
He was grandpa because
Yeah.
he helped my parents raise us since I was 10 years old.
Yeah.
He was in my life. He bought my suit so I can graduate in high school. Like he helped me a lot, and when I turned 18, I moved in with him and helped him around. And he he helped me like sign up for school and whatnot. And so he was a huge help. He was a father figure to me. You know?
Yeah,
Big,
yeah,
so-
right on, man.
Yeah,
That's
so-
awesome. Now, Mr. Moya,
Ooh.
what's my man thinking over here? I know you've been through a lot of new changes lately, which
Yeah,
is
definitely a
all
lot.
blessed stuff.
Yeah, it's all been good.
Yeah.
Let me see. I mean, yeah, I had my aunt. I think I've talked to you about my aunt. The one I got the tattoos and stuff for. But I think one of the most recent ones. I actually never even talked to anyone about this one. Was the miscarriage last year when that happened. So I did have a baby recently, but right before that we had a miscarriage.
I remember that.
And it was a little crazy because like I didn't realize it until later, but like I went from sky high in emotions. I was like so excited, everything was awesome and everything. And then I remember the one day that the day before it happened, the night before, I was sending Lauren videos. So we were talking about doing like a gender reveal and stuff, and me and my parents were just looking on the couch, like watching YouTube videos on the TV and stuff. And then the next morning, that's when I got the call that Lauren was in the hospital and ended up losing the baby.
Yeah.
At the time, I didn't realize how much it hurt. Like it took me a while. Like, I didn't want to talk to anyone. I was kind of like just locked in my room, didn't want to do anything. I'm a very like to myself person sometimes. Like I'm okay with that, but I didn't realize it at the time how much it did affect me. Where it took me a while before I was actually back in the groove, back in like positive about it. And Lauren ended up, we ended up being pregnant again a month and a half later,
Yeah.
And it was awesome. But it took me 4 or 5 months before I was able to be like, this is happening, where I was able to actually let it set in because I was so scared of like,
Didn't want to get hurt.
yeah, exactly. Like I was like, oh my gosh, like, I felt my disconnect to everyone, I knew I was doing it, but it just, it took a big toll. It took a bigger toll on me than I really thought or expected it to. And, like I said, like everyone was talking about, oh, what names, this and that, what are you going to do? And I didn't even want to say anything. I was like, I can't even put a name to it right now because, like I said, I was so scared of it. And, even leading up to it too, I mean, going through a tough time and things were pretty rough for me for a little bit. And, I'm not very vocal about it. I'm a very to myself person. I always try to put others before me. I've always been like that since I was younger. That was kind of my mask that I was wearing. But, like I said, it was recently it was actually pretty crazy when so once the baby was born, that's when I finally was like, oh, this happened. Like she's here, this happened. It was scary. It was a scary moment there, like everything that was going on. So, she, even when she came out, I was still like distraught because wrapped around the cord twice, baby literally just went limp. As soon as she came out, I was like,
I know that.
yeah.
I know that
She was in the NICU for a couple of days, so thankfully she's healthy and everything's good now.
And she's beautiful and strong.
Yep.
She smiles, even throws a little attitude, right?
Literally, I already got my attitude. So
Yeah.
that was the thing though. And the other day, that's when I she had me up until 4 a.m. Would not let me put her down. Was just constantly. I was going nuts the other night, but I was holding her, and that was the kind of moment that I realized I was like, that was like not the happiest I've been so far, but like, it was just one of those moments that was kind of concrete in my mind where I'm like, okay, like this is what I have. Like, this is mine. This is what's gonna, like, this life is in my hands. It was a pretty surreal moment right there. Like, but
until they're 10 years old and
Yeah.
you want to drop kick them.
All part of the process. You know, that's growth. We grow. No, that's a beautiful thing, man. And that feeling is, me and Jessica had a miscarriage, and I remember the same. I mean, I was so excited. I was like, well, and we weren't trying. We were trying, I guess. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But we weren't trying per se, and you know, we found out we were pregnant, and it's like, oh my gosh, and you know, I wasn't like, oh my gosh, what's happening? No, I was the same, excited, like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna bring life. We're gonna bring a life into this world. So excited, had the miscarriage, and it did hurt, and then similar story. Not too long later, we ended up getting pregnant with Joey before, you know, our wedding, and we'd already had our wedding planned. It wasn't a shotgun wedding, but it happened, and yeah, man, it is. It's good to share what you just shared, because you mentioned something about putting up a wall to protect yourself, and some people don't even realize it. Yeah, that was a pretty powerful insight for yourself to actually realize that you were putting that wall up, because a lot of times people go through experiences like that and they do put the wall up, and the next time around when they have an opportunity to experience something beautiful, they never take it down. And you were able to take that wall down throughout the process, which is
it took me a while. Honestly, I feel like I didn't even do it until recently, where I was able to, like, you know, able to finally, like, be cheery about it, you know,
peace
like,
and joy.
because I still had that feeling up until like 8 months in, you know. She was a month away, and I was just like, you know, just kind of still stagnant about a lot of things, but yeah,
You
It
know,
was traumatic.
so, you know, my wife also had a miscarriage, but it didn't happen first. Like, we had Isaac, our son, first. Then a couple years later, you know, we were trying to have a sibling for Isaac, and my wife got pregnant. The thing is, didn't feel real. It was like surreal, like, oh, you're pregnant, that's cool. Like, we were both like that. And then, like, she, like, 10 weeks after that, she had a miscarriage. She just had a miscarriage. And it was just like, we didn't get those feelings because I feel like we weren't attached. Even though we wanted to have a kid, we were like, it just didn't seem real. And it actually happened on Thanksgiving. So we were in the hospital in 2010, I think.
Yeah.
2009, 2010. We were in the hospital on Thanksgiving while Cindy had a miscarriage. But then Cindy later on told me like she was in tears.
Yeah.
She was in tears. Like it finally hit her afterwards. But it did. I didn't feel attached. But we always joke around and say, like, this is the reason why we have twins, because that child wasn't ready. They weren't ready to be with us yet, so they waited until their sibling was here.
Nice.
So that's
there
how-
you go.
and that's why we have
two
twins.
baby girls at once.
Yeah.
Oh man, what a blessing. Two at once, man. Yeah, blessing.
can't imagine.
It is a blessing, but man, what is good? What?
I'm literally already over here, like, she's driving me up the wall.
Yeah.
The other day I got pooped on, and I was changing a diaper, she's pooping at the same time.
Nice.
So I'm like, I can't imagine this.
Yeah,
Oh, dude, it was
baby.
so.
Relax.
No, the other day we were dying laughing because we woke up to. For 10 minutes, I was like, "What's going on?" Like, dude, I had never laughed. I had never laughed so hard.
Oh, that is awesome.
Babies are funny.
No, they are. They are.
But my daughter Alex, the youngest one, she had the cord wrapped around her neck too, and so I remember I saw that, I was like, and she was like purple.
Yeah.
She was purple. She come in her head. And I just,
She was
freaked-
out. Yeah, they had to revive her. Yeah.
freaked me out. But the thing with twins is they don't deliver them in the delivery room. They take you to in case they have to perform a C-section. So we were in the operating room, and then they took her out, cut her cord, or I cut the cord, and then they took her to another room in the back. And we were there for 20 minutes before we were able to see our
She didn't
kids.
even know what was going on.
Yeah, we were like, what's going on with our baby?
Yeah.
Because they just.
Oh, that's scary.
No, that was scary.
Yeah.
So, but no, she's.
Now you want to drop kick her sometimes.
Sometimes I drop kick her.
Yeah.
But you don't. You're a good dad.
But here's the thing: is like when I saw the cord, I was like, that's when I started crying. I started like tearing up, like, because I didn't tear up with my other kids, but this one I did. I teared up because I saw like they were in danger, you know.
Yeah.
So that was like, ugh.
Yeah.
But then
The miracle of life, man.
Yeah.
Look at that. No, that's beautiful. So myself, talking about past experiences, I can think of a lot of them. I think one of the most traumatic, and I've shared it before. I don't think I've ever shared it in a public forum per se, but my dad had an addiction problem. He was an alcoholic and a drug addict, and would beat my mom and I for years. It was just greatest guy in the world, had an incredible heart, but was sick, and he couldn't break away from that bondage, that his demons, had a grip on him. And I found him. We went out to dinner for my cousin's birthday party at Bullwinkle's in Upland, and my dad had just been shot in the head like a month before. He had a bullet lodged in the back of his head, so he was just got out of the hospital, and we were going to my cousin's birthday party at Bullwinkle's in Upland. He started drinking again, and then him and my Uncle Tico, they would always fist fight. That's just ever since they were younger. They would always fist fight. Every family party, Uncle Joe and Uncle Tico, would be in the backyard fighting. It's what they did. So they got in a fight at Bullwinkle's, took off angry. I remember going with him, and my mom and my little brother and I and him, and he went to his dealer and picked up what he was going to do and went home. And in the morning, I found him dead. He passed away. I was 10 years old, and I found him on the couch, and I went and woke up my mom. Mom, Dad won't wake up, and it was, that was hard. It was hard. And that was actually the second dead body that I found as a kid. When I was about 5 or 6, I found my grandma. She was babysitting me, and she was an amazing woman, loved me to death, but she was an alcoholic, and she fell off the bed and hit her head, and she passed away. Wow. And I was with her that day, so I had to sit with grandma. Well, she was passed away until my mom got off of work. So that was the second time around. And it was hard. And I remember, and I'm going to share it, and I'm going to go where I'm going with it. I remember my aunt telling me, this is a good thing, Joey, your mom and you are safe now. And even though I know what I had to go through and the abuse that we went through, that was horrible. Like, I didn't care. I was still my dad. Yeah. And I missed him, and ended up, going down a similar path to him with the alcohol and the drinking. Never laid a hand on a woman. That was, actually I fought a lot growing up from the time I was a small child, almost weekly at least. I was in a fight because I was protecting someone, always protecting someone. If someone was bullying somebody, even as a little kid, and I never knew why I was doing it until I grew up and realized, my gosh, I couldn't protect my mom and I because my dad was too big, but I could protect other people, and that's what I was doing. So I'd get in a lot of fights. I never would start them. I was always a good person and loved everybody. It's just my heart. But I would always fight other people, grown men. I'd fight grown men on the streets because I seen them, beating their kids, and wasn't my place, wasn't right. My heart was in the right place. My actions were in the wrong place. But that experience, a lot of what I went through, I would hold in. I wouldn't share it, and it actually took over. And I would say, I'm never going to be like my dad. Well, I ended up a full-fledged drug addict, alcoholic, homeless, in and out of jail. And I became exactly everything I said I wouldn't become, other than a womanizer and a woman beater. I did not do that. But I was trying to hold it in, always trying to be strong. And when I finally was able to let go and be real about it and not hide it anymore, and I would hide it. I would literally hide it. I didn't want people to know what I was doing. It had bondage over me. And I realized, as I've grown now, in any situation that I've gone through, and have struggled with, now I share it. I share it because I realize, one, it's empowering to me, and it sets me free from that bondage. And I say, as a spiritual person, and I say that if I hold something in that I know is not right and try and hide it, then it's going to be used against me. But if I have something that I'm struggling with, and I actually set it free by sharing it with other brothers like yourselves and other people that may need to hear about it, one, not only am I setting myself free and not giving that thing or that scenario or that situation power over me anymore, but I'm also allowing others to be empowered and helping them get set free from that, because then they realize they're not alone. And I think that's so important, because a lot of us in life go through things and we want to hold it in and hide it and keep it, thinking, I don't want nobody to know I'm weak. Well, on the contrary, it's good to let that out and allow God to use that, I will say, to help impact and change others and give them hope, man. People look at me from the outside looking in, they'd never know I was arrested 9 times before I was 18. I had 7 misdemeanors and 2 felonies. After that, as an adult, I think 5 or 6 arrests. you couldn't tell. I don't have tattoos. I don't look like that person, but I was homeless. I'll say it, I was a crack cocaine addict. I was sick. And, it started out with fun and enjoying, weed, ecstasy, mushrooms, acid, all the things that I did a lot of. Then one thing I'd always say, I'm never doing coke because that was what my dad did. I'm never doing that. And then one day I ended up doing that. And then one thing led to another, and it was a progression. And, now I realize I tell the kids I coach at the high school, my kids, my brothers, sisters, family, friends, they all know. And I don't hide it from anybody because my story may help someone to get away or to see that there is light, there is a hope. People can change, and I'm a firm believer. A lot of people say, "Oh, people can't change." No, I'm living proof they can. Was it easy? No, it was a struggle. But when it really began to happen was when I was able to be real and accept, who I was. And some of you guys know what happened years later. I was clean and sober from 10/26/09, and in around 2018, 9 years later, I thought, I can drink, I can have a beer like a normal person. I've been clean and sober, business is good, life is good, family's good, not perfect by all means, and I did, I had a beer. And then I went from one beer to another, and I knew, and I'm gonna tell you this straight up, and I tell people this because someone might need to hear this. I knew at the very moment that I had that first beer that it was wrong. And I knew, and is it wrong for everybody? No, it was wrong for me. I knew who I was, I knew where I'd come from, and I know how I'm wired. And I knew that this was not okay, and this could lead somewhere else. I did it anyways. And I know for a fact that I knew because I know me, and I'm good at manipulating my own self even, but I also knew because I hit it. We were at a campsite out in up near Santa Barbara, and I went and grabbed it and sat in the back on a bench at the little camp area, and my wife comes walking around the corner. What are you doing? I'm having a beer. What do you mean, what am I doing? I'm having a beer. What do you mean you're having a beer? You don't drink. I'm like, I've been clean and sober for like 9 years. I'm not the same person anymore. I can have a beer. I justified it, but it was wrong. And I'm going to tell you guys, man, it went from one, and some of you guys got to see it, the progression, to one every now and then, to one a week, to one a day, to 6 to 12 IPAs a night, sitting right here working, still working. So in my mind, well, I'm still working, making money, doing my job. But I was literally back to a place where I was in bondage to it. And one thing led to another, and one night, one of the guys here, a family member, he's not here so I won't say it, but a young man, it was his birthday. And at this point, Jessica was like, he's gonna do what he's gonna do. So she was like, well, if you're gonna drink, for so-and-so's birthday, just call me and I'll pick you up. Cool. Like, we got a green light, bro. We got the golden pass. We can go out and party, bar hop, and do everything, right? I'm just being real. That's where I was. And, we did. And we went from one place to the next. And did I call? Nope. The last place, and I'm going to tell you guys, man, and I've said this, and I don't get weirded out, but the truth is, scripturally it says, when you release a demon, and I was struggling with true demons, there was spiritual warfare. I was dealing with generational curses in my family because multiple family members have overdosed and died and have addiction. I was under attack, and when you release that spirit, it says scripturally that spirit will go and that demon will go and search and try and find another host. And when it can't find one, it comes back with 7 more demons, even 7 times stronger than itself, to enter back into that man, into that host, into that body, to take it over again and take it back to where it was. Wow. And where I was going and what I had seen from the outside looking in after what I'm going to share right now happened, I was on the path to death and destruction again, right back to where I was going to go. That night, when we were at one particular bar, the last one that we went to, I was offered cocaine by multiple people, 4 or 5 people. Just, hey, you want some? I'm like, what the heck, man? No, I'm good. And I didn't. I said, no, I'm good. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I knew, and I had some insight already, because even throughout this, I was still reading, I was still going to church, I was in my word. I was trying. I was just walking 2 sides of the fence, if you would. Mm-hmm. And I knew, like, man, what is going on, Joe? You know what's going on. What are you doing? Kept drinking, didn't do that. Almost got in a fight with the guy who I'm pretty sure had a blade, and I was able to de-escalate the situation and turn it into something else and move on. But I was under attack. One would say you were physically under attack. No, I was spiritually under attack. I will say my life was under threat and it was trying to be taken out. We left from that place, that bar, drove, and shouldn't have, ended up driving like a maniac, like a race car driver, and hit sand, slid out, finally caught, and then wrapped the car around a telephone pole. When we wrapped the car around a telephone pole, we actually hit a metal cable, sliced my car in half. Literally sliced the car in half, all the way down to the engine. Me and the passenger were in there, and I'm like, okay, are you okay? He's okay. And I'm gonna say, by God's grace, we weren't hurt at all. And some say, oh, because you were buzzing, you know, that's what happens, you don't feel it. No, I'm telling you, and this person, if he was here, I would let him talk for himself, but it felt like we were covered in clouds and felt nothing. Airbags didn't deploy, nothing. Car sliced in half. Healthy as heck. Now that experience was embarrassing. I had to have my wife, you were there that night to help.
There, yeah.
My wife and my son Joey were there. I had to sit in the back of a police car and let my son and my wife see me there. My brother, my other brother that I almost killed. And the officer that picked me up, I used to coach his son in baseball. I've coached for years. I coach wrestling now. And he's like, Joe? I'm like, yeah, how's it going? He's like, my gosh, are you okay? And he knew me. He knew I wasn't a bad person. You know, I was just in a bad place. And, you know, took me to the police station, called his sergeant, said, hey, this is a friend of mine. He didn't take me in. He said, don't worry about it. You know, they took me around the back. I didn't ever had to walk in. They had the blood lady come and take my blood outside and then released me. And that was hard. I went home the next day. I felt like crap. I was embarrassed. I was ashamed. How can I get back to this place? How can I get back to this place? And my daughter, and I'm going to tell you right now, that moment is once again one of the greatest moments of my life that I would never change. And I will share and never be ashamed of it because it changed my life. That was 3 years ago in August. And I once again was able to grow and become the man that I am today because of that. My daughter that day, the next morning, we were talking and, you know, I'm like, Lily, this is what happened. You know, I'm sorry. And she said, Dad, you know, I went to bed and I realized I had a dad. And then I woke up and Mom told me what happened. And I realized I could have not had a dad anymore. And that, my son and my wife seeing me, you there seeing that, the person that was with me, it just hit. And I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing? I'm not this person. You know, in the Word, there's a scripture that talks about a dog going back to lick up its own vomit. That was what I did. I had this beautiful life, and I took a step back thinking I was missing out on something to go lick up my own vomit and almost go back to a dark place, which could have been death. And after that, I haven't had a drink since, and I'm okay with that, and it doesn't bother me when people do drink at all. I'm okay with that. You know, that's their choice. I just know where I'm at, and I know who I am. And it's been one of the greatest experiences that I've gone through. I had to go through that program, that class.
Yeah, I remember.
And when I was in the class, it was during COVID, so I would do it online. Mm-hmm. I was one of the speakers, one of the main speakers every time. You know, the teacher would utilize my experience and allow me to speak into the lives of others. I got to pray in the class. I got to go over scripture with people. And it was just amazing what God was able to do through that experience. And, you know, it's times like that especially someone like myself, who's a local business owner and a local coach, might want to keep that from everybody. Oh man, I don't want them to know. And that was my natural reaction in my physical, the man, saying, oh, you can't let nobody know about this. But knowing what God was doing in my life and seeing the changes that were taking place through that experience and my past and everything that led up to that point, I said, no, this is something that other people need to know. They need to understand this because they might be exactly where I'm at. Mm-hmm. And if my story can prevent them from going back and maybe dying and I've had quite a few of my friends overdose. There was a group of about 8 or 9 of us throughout high school all the way through our older years, and about 6 of them have overdosed or died in car accidents. I mean, that was our group, you know, and if that experience can give someone strength and hope and understanding, or maybe just know they're not alone, then that's what it's there for. And now I share everything with everybody. You know, I was at my listing appointment the other day in Hesperia, and I literally was talking to him. He was a retired law enforcement, and she's a dispatcher, and was going into some deep stuff like this. And I was like, oh man, it's like God was moving, and I knew it. And I was crying, they were crying, and you know what? It was encouraging. It was healing. It was a listing appointment, but you know what I mean? And yes, I got the listing, I'm helping them, God is good, we're blessed, we're going to do some business, but it ain't about that, man. And this business and what we do, and I say it all the time, it's not about that.
No, it's not.
It's about the people, the experience, loving people, encouraging them, you know, letting them know there's hope. You know, for me, you know, I'm at a place in my life where I know why I'm here. The harvest is plentiful and the laborers are few. Well, I'm a laborer, I'm here to serve. I'm here to love people. I'm here to encourage them. Yeah. I'm here to share Christ and the message of hope. And, you know, all that pain and all that suffering, I wouldn't change for anything. Wouldn't wish it on anybody. But because of that, that's why I'm the way I am now. And it's a good thing.
Yeah. All those negative life experiences that we have, they actually, you turn them into something good, or like what not to do, or, you know, what path not to go, or seeing other people's struggles going through it, you know, and having positive role models around you. Like, when was the point where, did you have somebody that you were like, I want to surround myself with those people? Or was it just you that changed? Like, what made it click for you? Because for me, I think it was more or less where I put myself in the group that I was around and stuff. And I was actually fortunate enough. For me, I moved a lot. So when people ask like where I'm from, mostly, Beaumont, Cherry Valley, but I moved a lot too. And I feel like that took me those big moves and meeting like so many different people, like from here to like the beach or wherever, like everybody's, it's a little different. I think, you know, because you lived over in like Huntington, like it's a little bit different, but then you get that different dynamic of people and stuff like that. Yeah. So if you hang out in just one city, you're going to be kind of like that certain way, like in that general area. And then you go out here and there, and then it gives you different dynamics.
I was literally just talking to a friend at lunch the other day he was talking about that, and he was talking about business and stuff, but then it was going on about like how we connect with people and stuff like that. And I was telling him it's actually pretty crazy. Like when you're right. Like when you insert yourself, like there's certain cliques of groups no matter where you go, and the most common one is. Especially those people who are like, I grew up in New Pipe, I can't wait to get out, Dude, that's everywhere.
Yeah.
I heard that from people in Huntington.
And you know, you should. Literally, you should. Yeah. You should get out and experience.
Go explore.
You know, you really should.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm a strong advocate of that.
Yeah,
you should.
Don't just stay there, right?
Yeah. Also, too, is you want to find your tribe.
Yeah, well, you also might like it and want to come back. Be like, no, I miss home. Like,
and appreciate it even more.
You can complain about it, and you know, piss and moan, but like at the end of the day, you'd be like, nah, all right, I got to go back home. Man. Like,
they used to call Beaumont, the city of Beaumont, the black hole.
The black hole.
Every time you leave, you always come back.
Yeah, or Beaumont, but Beaumont, it'll suck you back. Yeah.
Suck you back in, But no, you just gotta find your tribe that helps build you up. You know, like right here, we're a tribe here.
Well, not only that, but being open to bringing other people in though too.
Oh yeah,
like,
of course.
You know, it's not saying you got to change for anyone, but you know, sometimes like you like you said, you learn something from everyone.
Yep.
I always say too,
from
learn
kids, from babies.
Exactly. You learn what you gotta do, and you learn what you shouldn't do.
Yep.
You take something out of every single experience. So
it's always good to surround yourself with positive people.
It is, and to answer that question you had though about what was it, this is the crazy thing. Even when I was sick, I'd be out on the streets with the people I was out there with, and they would even say, "You don't belong here. You're not like us. You know, you're different," and they can tell. Because I always had an internal struggle while I was doing what I was doing, but I tell people I was a puppet. You know, there was an experience when, I mentioned my dad passed away, overdosed when I was young. My younger brother Jess, we're 7 years apart, so I was 10, he was about 3 or 4 going on. So I always felt an obligation, almost like a father figure, even though I was big brother, but I bought him his first truck, I was always there, like he actually helped me a lot. He would hang out. We'd work out in the middle of the night, so I wouldn't go out and party. Well, one night I was leaving the house to go and do what I was going to do, and I didn't want to. He's sleeping in his bedroom, and I'm walking by, and I'm crying, asking God, please don't let me go. Please don't let me go. But I was, a puppet, and I had no choice. I was sick. That's how sick I was. I realized in a Purcell, Maynard, I lived in a rehab home in Pomona, and I was there for a year, clean and sober for that year. Thought I was good. That's another story for another time. But he told me, he says, Joe, he said, because he said, you need to go to the rehab home that I have in Pomona. And I'm like, Pomona? I can't go to P-Town. That's where I go. That's where I do my thing. I go to P-Town to go grab what I grab, and then I come back or go wherever I go. And he's like, that's what you got to understand. He said, wherever you go, you're there. So until you get right, it doesn't matter where you go, man. So you got to figure out you, and you have to grow. So I did, and I went there, and I grew there, and that wasn't the last of my run. It got worse before it got better again. But to answer your question, it was always me. It was me, and I'm okay with that. And that's one thing I guess I'm pretty grateful for. Every time I was in trouble, every time I got put in handcuffs and sent to where I was going to go, I was never mad at anybody but myself. And that's one thing I'm very grateful for, because a lot of people like to blame others and not take responsibility for their own actions. Mm-hmm. I'm really good at owning it, and I think that's a big part of why I was able to get out of where I was, because I accepted that fully, which is important.
Yeah, that's how you grow.
Yeah,
exactly.
I tell my kids like, because I always like to blame somebody.
Yeah,
like, it's not their fault. You made that choice.
That's right.
You made that choice, and this is the consequences of those choices. So yeah, you might have been influenced by them, but you had the ultimate choice.
Yeah.
So take responsibility. So I teach my kids that all the time.
Take responsibility, take the consequences, and learn from it.
Learn from
Exactly.
it.
And
Don't blame anybody else but yourself.
Especially with learning that too, I don't think a lot of people realize, and why a lot of people get scared. Where do you got to go to learn something? Somewhere dark you've never been to before.
Yep.
Every time you learn something, it's something you've never experienced before, something you have no idea about, and that's
where you grow.
On a wild ride.
Yeah.
You never know what's gonna happen at the end of that.
No, it's true.
Hey, but sometimes there's light at the end of it.
Yep, always.
Doesn't mean there's always something.
I always say there's always a silver lining to every situation that you're in.
Yeah.
Just find that positive.
Yeah, and there is positive in every single thing. Even all this major stuff that I've gone through. There's so much more. I should write it all down and put it in a book, but I would change none of it.
I'll be your agent for that.
No, we can learn through all of it. Amen. Let's do it. Right? We can learn through all of it, man. Through all the pain and suffering. And that's the thing. What people don't realize too, like one might say, "Oh, your pain is more than my pain, or my pain's more than yours. My suffering more." No, everybody suffers in their own way. Everybody has gone through. Even high school kids that one would think, "Oh, they don't have anything to worry about. They just go to school and do their homework." Man, they have so much more to deal with than we had to deal with social media and all the other crap. And everybody has their pains. Everybody, and taking that lightly to anybody is not right. Like, owning it and not like being debilitated by it. That's not okay either, right? Can't be debilitated by it. We got to grow through it, but everybody has their own struggles and can use that to help other people.
Yeah, and you got to learn in your own way.
Yeah.
Like, literally every time you talk about it, like, I've had friends that ask me for advice. I never tell them what I would do, because what I do, that's not the right thing to do.
Yeah.
I can maybe help you find a direction, but it's like you got to make those decisions yourself.
Yeah.
You ask someone to draw a house on a piece of paper for you, I'm sure all four of us will draw it differently, some way, somehow. It's always going to be that way.
I'll copy it.
Yeah. What do we say? We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We'll just copy the other wheel. There you go. That's right.
I won't mind a little bit too.
Oh, that's awesome. I don't know what that says, but I can't even read that. Can you read that up there? But it's just putting there. Hey, but it's how you doing? But it's just in the background trying to show us something.
I see.
This is all teleprompter the whole time, and I've been missing it. Oh shit, we had a script, you guys.
Time management podcast done.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I gotta get back to work.
You know what, man? That was a good day. We had a lot of good stuff to talk about, and hopefully, hey, the hope is we come together, we chill, we have fun, and if this can help anybody else learn, grow, man, they're always different, you know, and open to different topics and subjects, man. Just bring them to the table.
And this is the first episode with 4 people.
Boom,
Yeah.
growing, and we had the mics to cover. Look at that, we're like tech savvy people. Well, Cody is anyway,
Yeah.
and Rudy too, but yeah.
No, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll let them figure it out. But, no, man, hey, that's real talk, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right, guys.
that's a wrap.
See you next time.
Thanks for
Later,
tuning in.
love you.
See you guys.
Have
See
a
ya.
blessed day.
Turn these off real quick so we can stop being rolling.
I like the 4.